Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Doctors of Running podcast, where we, a group of doctors of physical therapy, discuss the art and science of running and the stuff that we put on our feet. At the roundtable tonight, we have Dr. Matthew Klein, who's the founder of Doctors of Running, as well as Dr. David Salas, and I'm Nathan Brown. We are pumped to be together, and we are especially pumped because we get to do a mailbag today. We love getting to dive into the mailbag. We get a ton of great questions from people, so many of them that we don't get to. And so we love the opportunity to try to talk a little bit longer about some of the questions that not only are really interesting, but also represent a larger array of questions, even though we can't get to every single individual one. So we've got a great lineup of questions today that we're going to be talking about. But first, we do want to talk about what we have been testing and what we've had on our feet. So this is the In for Testing segment. This is powered and fueled by Skratch Labs. And if you're wanting to try out any of their hydration and nutrition stuff, you can go over to Skratch Labs and you can use our code Doctors of Running for 20% off your first order. So what do you all have that you've been testing lately? David, do you want to start?
Yeah, I'll start with the apparel. Trying to do a better job of highlighting some of those things as they come in. But I've actually had this one for a little bit, but this is the CLE Daily Tee or DLY t-shirt. It took us a little bit to decipher that before the podcast. Here's a little logo. For the most part, it's pretty much just like a, single color, not much going on from an aesthetic standpoint, but it's nice. The material is really good. It actually wicks moisture really, really well. So it's been one of my go-tos for just kind of going out for runs if I know I'm going to sweat a lot. So I really like it. And then I have two shoes. What's up?
Brett, I have a question about that shirt. Is it more kind of like upscale cotton feel, or is it more like on performance tee feel?
No, this is a running tee for sure. This is not it looks nice enough, I think, to lifestyle when you're wearing it. But no, this is definitely a running tee. Yeah, I could easily go hit track workouts in this if I wanted to.
Nice.
Or go for a long run or something. Yeah, this is not like that red striped one that I got a while back where it was more kind of like nice cotton. Like this is definitely a running material. Yeah, that's a good question.
Does it beat the on performance tee or no?
Oof.
Because I feel like that's been one of our favorites as
it's close. I think the material is more comfortable, but I think the on one might just be a little bit better at the wicking.
Yeah.
Like this is softer on the skin. Like this feels really nice.
Right.
But I think if I was just sweating buckets, I think I probably would choose the on tee, but it's close. They're really nice. These are really nice. So, loving running in them. Cool. I've got two shoes here. Both of them are going to be what I kind of call all-terrain daily trainers. And it's kind of a shoe that was a daily trainer for like a road running shoe that was adapted to handle a little bit of off-roading. And so the first one is going to be the Salomon Aero Blaze 3 Gravel. Now, this shoe, I was very surprised. Actually, I wasn't that surprised. I feel like the Aeroblaze 3, I really liked the experience of it, but it was a little unstable for me. And when you look at the platform, it's pretty narrow through the midfoot. The midsole is kind of like this soft, like beaded TPU that's like really bouncy, but like with a thin little road outsole and kind of a thinner upper. Like it was super lightweight and fun, but it was kind of unstable. So when they added this new Contagrip like gravel outsole, firmed up the ride a little bit, made it a little bit more stable. Traction's a lot better. And the ride is a little bit stiffer too. And I have really liked it. And it's at 8.7 ounces. So for adding that much rubber, like that's kind of crazy. So I have been really enjoying the Salomon Aero Blaze 3 Gravel. Mostly for daily efforts, but you can pick up the pace a little bit too if you want to. And it's decently secure in runnable trail. I wouldn't go hitting anything super hard in it, but if you're going for a daily run and you're going to cross multiple different types of terrain, very good. Another shoe that's also very good for the same job, except it's a little bit different, is going to be the Ultra Experience Wild 2.
I love that shoe.
Very nice shoe. Very, very nice shoe. The only thing with this one, the foam is so like where this one is a very like noticeable bounce beaded TPU. Like this feels just kind of like your bread and butter EVA. There's not really like super, you don't get a whole lot out of it, but the rocker is really nice. The platform's really good. Traction's great. Even though the lugs aren't very deep, it's that max track, just ultra outsole. It does really well. I was able to run like some downhills and turns and everything I wanted to. Like, it feels like it leans more trail than road, but it can totally run road as well. So I think you could easily justify this as being a daily trainer. Same goes for the Aero Blaze 3 gravel. And to make the decision even harder for the people that are looking for that, they're the same price. They're like 140, which is, I think, a steal for both of the shoes. So Ultra, you get a little bit more of the classic Ultra fit. So if you're looking for a wider toe box, you definitely got that. And then volume's a little bit lower than some of the other Ultra models that we've seen, but locks down really well. It fits good. Solomon in general tends to just run a little bit more narrow. You could probably see that pretty easily if I hold the two up, but it's fine. It didn't feel overly narrow. It just felt like it wasn't wide.
With the Solomon gravel, does it have gator option? Like, does it have gator attachments? Because the Ultra shoe does. It does not.
Yeah,
so that could be
gator attachments. I feel like you'd like make it a point to just bring up something gator related every podcast.
I don't think it's every podcast, but I do think that could be a determining factor for somebody. Like, they got a really like small rocks or dusty kind of thing. Could be worth it.
It's almost like, if I had to like really break these down, it's almost like road shoe that could do some trail, and then it's like trail shoe that can do some road. You know what I mean?
That's good. Yep.
Yeah. And for the listeners, because you can't see what I just held up, the road being slight trail being the Aero Blaze 3 gravel, and the trail that can do some road, the Experience Wild 2. That's what I got on my feet and my torso.
My take on the Experience Wild 2 is that it fits that box of, hey, you want a shoe that's going to be nice, simple, nothing fancy, nothing exotic, but can hike and can run a lot. Like, it can run really well, but it definitely can hike. That fits the bill for that, because there's some flexibility in the forefoot still. There's a little bit of toe spring, but I like that shoe. I wore it all day today doing stuff, just simple stuff around the yard. We went to an apple orchard, and that was just the shoe that I was in, because it's comfortable. It's nice to be out doing stuff in it and being on your feet. So
it is more stable than the Aero Blaze 3 gravel too.
Yeah,
a little bit wider, firmer foam. Like, the Aero Blaze 3 felt kind of unstable to me, and then this kind of made it not unstable, but it didn't make it stable. You know, it just kind of made it neutral.
Yeah. Matt, what about you?
I don't really have anything new at the moment. We're in a quiet period where I'm trying to get miles on some shoes and hopefully get some 100-mile reviews. But honestly, I've been a little bit beat up, and so decided to get back to something that I really enjoy. And I've just been hammering miles in the ASICS Gel Kayano.
Give it one shot. You got this.
Kayano.
Oh no.
You had it
so well.
Kayano.
So good.
Kayano.
Sorry. I'm
Gel
very tired.
Kayano.
Gel Kayano. I've got almost 200 miles on this. I did, for the first time, I think ever, I ripped one of the outsole pods off, and the heel is actually still intact, which I found a little bit surprising, but it's fine. I just did like 12, 13 of this morning. It was totally fine, even missing a chunk. It's just been such a great shoe that I keep gravitating back towards this year. And it's definitely one of my, if not, we have to see that there might be something coming up. But it's definitely my stability shoe of the year. It's just been such a fantastic ride. It's not light. It's not the fastest shoe, but man, getting into a rhythm, being comfortable, breaking in really, really nicely, holding it. The midsoles holds up really, really well. And just the stability with the 4D guidance system, like, the more I've run in this, the more I can feel that, like, I get bounced out, and it really facilitates a kind of a better movement pattern for me, where just because I tend to pronate and I hold there, it really helps me bounce out, and it's taking some pressure off Achilles and post tip. So it's just a great shoe that I've really, really enjoyed. I keep trying to also get, I don't mean to be rude, what I'm about ready to say. I've been really trying to get miles in the ASICS T2 2014, and man, I hate that shoe's heel so much. It is just not working for me. And I actually think it might be one of the things that gave me Achilles tendinopathy, other than overtraining a couple months ago.
just that little overtraining feature, but
that didn't help. But yeah, it's just like every time I put that on, it just like sets me back with my Achilles. And I'm like, this thing, like the heel, just like, for those who can't see this, like the heel tab just like digs inwards. It just like it points forward. It should point straight up. So I'm trying to get miles because I want to do a 100-mile review because it's a popular shoe, but man, that shoe might kill me.
So when you're saying the heel, you're talking about the heel cup. That's the part that you're not a fan of. It's the heel cup and how it's digging. Like, instead of having like a retro curve, it just continues to follow the calcaneus shape and digs into your Achilles.
I also
Makes
hate
sense.
the heel transition as well. Like they had a decent bevel as in the previous version that I don't know what happened, or I'm just, yeah. But 4-foot forward is a great shoe. The rear foot stinks, and I'm just struggling. And some people, I'm sure, love it, but I'm struggling with that shoe. Racing shoe wise, yeah, nothing honestly new. Just hammering miles in the Endorphin Pro 4 from Saucony and really loving that shoe. Seen photos of some interesting stuff from Saucony. So we've seen the Endorphin Pro 5, which looks to be mostly an upper update, which I'm really excited. And we haven't gotten that yet, but I'm just going to, you know what? The last comment, I haven't tested it. I'm going to save for one of the mailbag questions. So yeah, nothing new right now.
Okay, great.
Can't talk about it?
Can't talk about it?
I just want to save it.
I'll save it for later.
I mean, they haven't told me not to talk about it, and we don't have it, so I'm just going to say whatever I want.
Oh, you've seen it online, kind of a thing?
Yeah.
Oh, well,
Might
yeah.
be a
of
boring
course.
episode. There's nothing I have that I can't talk about right now. I'm not used to this.
That's boring.
Or is
As
there?
people
Wait.
know,
No, there's nothing I can't talk about. There was almost something that I couldn't talk about, but it's not here yet.
that's really funny. Well, if you're new here and this is your first time listening to Doctors of Running, David has a way of always bringing up a shoe that is already what's under what's called embargo, meaning that we have the shoe, we might be testing it, but they said you can't talk about it publicly until a certain date. And he just loves to bring them up. I think it just tickles him. It makes him happy to do that.
To be fair, I don't break any NDAs. I don't give any.
He doesn't. Very good at it.
I don't give anything out that would actually make you think of what shoe it actually is.
You just say you can't talk about it.
It's like HIPAA, but for shoes.
Yeah, exactly. The students who graduated last year, they had this joke that I was not able to like participate in because they know it's a joke, but they would always be like, "Oh, HIPAA, sorry," and they're like, "Yeah, because if you say HIPAA, sorry, it doesn't matter if you broke HIPAA." That was their joke. That if you just say HIPAA, sorry, it covers all of the HIPAA sins, and they were joking. But as one of their instructors, I couldn't laugh at it. It's kind of funny.
For the lawyers that listen to Doctors Running, let us know if there's legal grounds for that or not.
Definitely is not legal grounds to say HIPAA, sorry.
Definitely sure that doesn't work. But I am not a lawyer, so I can't comment. I don't have no idea. It's not with my skill set.
So as some people may know, I was trying to train up for that 50K. My foot got mad. So I've really only been running 3 to 6 miles a week after a couple weeks off. And my toe's coming around, which is great. I've just been running in shoes that are happy for my foot. So it's ones that have a bit of a rocker and just have the right amount of cushioning. So I've been back in the SC Trainer version 3 quite a bit. That's been the happy shoe for my foot lately. And actually the Cloud Boom Echo 3 is one that just the rocker and the foam consistency just feels really good on my foot. So I've gotten some mileage in on those. Again, mileage being very, very small. And I've also been running in this hat. I have a athlete that I coach who got it for me, and it's an awesome hat. It says "Running is dope." It's from Sprints, I think, is the company, but they got this for me as a thank you gift one time. Hats. Yeah, this one's nice. It's like a trucker hat style. So if you like kind of that kind of larger fit in the front, but it's comfortable in the back. I run with it. It's a good time. But that's what we're testing. That's what we've got on our feet. So again, if you want to check out anything from Skratch Labs, who makes this segment happen, you can go over to Skratch Labs and use the code Doctors of Running for 20% off your first order. Returning from running-related injuries can sometimes take a very intentional and sequential return to adding that stress back onto your body. And so it can be helpful to have some sort of system that can offload some of your body weight in order to decrease the stress on whatever tissue is recovering. As a physical therapist and personally, I have utilized the lever system to help with return to running after running-related injuries. And what's great about this system is it is completely portable, and so it can be put and connected to pretty much any treadmill within your home or at your local gym. And it's also extremely affordable. Unlike some offloading systems, which can cost tens of thousands of dollars, you get this at a significant fraction of that cost. And so if you're looking at finding a solution to help you return to running in a really smart way, go check out the Lever Movement System at levermovement.com, and you can use the code DOR20 to get 20% off your purchase. But let's dive into the mailbag. we have a lot of really good questions. We're going to start with this one from Lee. And Lee asks this. First, they say, thank you for all that you do. The time and effort you put forth is helping runners. Appreciate that. They say, I run on average 20 miles a week, and last year, a running store recommended the Adidas Supernova Solution 1 to help provide mild stability. At the time, I was trying to run in the Nova Blast 4 from ASICS, which bothered my knees. I've done extremely well in the solution. I've completed 2 slowish marathons in them, but I'm looking for something a little more fun. I look at the shoe landscape and see so many different exciting super trainers, and I desperately wish I could find one that agrees with me. Don't get me wrong, the solution is great, but it's not very exciting. It's like driving a reliable Honda Civic, but sometimes I want to sit in a Porsche. Any recommendations? What do we got for Lee? First, can we talk about what the Adidas solution, talk about that shoe first. What do we know about the solution? And Matt, you might have the best insight on this one.
I think I'm the only one that's running it, but the Adidas solution. So I ran in version 1. I don't remember if we reviewed it, but I definitely reviewed version 2, and it wasn't advertised that much. It's part of their Supernova line. The Rise got a little bit more talking about, but essentially a mild stability shoe that where they have it's got actually one of their Light Strike. Oh my gosh, I can't remember it's Light Strike Pro in the top, but there's a PIBA-based foam in the top. It's got a little bit of bounce to it. It's tuned to be a little bit more for daily training. It can't pick up the pace, but it is very light. It's at that low 9-ounce range, which there's not many stability shoes in that realm. So what you're asking for was we're going to be looking into the stable neutral category, but the shoe is fairly basic, mild stability shoe. Most of that stability is going to be in the rear foot. It transitions a teeny bit into the midfoot, but a lot of it is a little bit through a little wedging, but mostly through like stable neutral components of like different foams and internal geometry and stuff like that. But when you first put it on, it doesn't feel like a stability shoe. It's not like a, whoa, medial post in your foot. It's like this very pleasant shoe that you start running and you're like, oh, I think I feel that a little bit. And then after like 15 miles, you're like, huh, that's interesting. I'm not as like my knees or my ankles not as irritated. So very mild stability shoe that has a little versatility into picking up the pace because it is lighter and a little bit bouncier, but it's also flexible and a little more standard. It's a great shoe, kind of more traditional drop, transitions really well despite what looks like posterior flare. It's actually got a really nice heel transition, but really solid shoe, very average fit.
When you say a wedge, can you just describe to people what a wedge is? And you talked about different foams, just how that makes stable neutral.
Yeah. So they have 2 different foams. There's the kind of lighter PIBA-based foam, and there's another kind of more traditional foam underneath. And so when you kind of put it on, you can feel that there's that one, the firmer foam is sitting underneath and is slightly angled. The angle is pointing a little bit more, like is facing more of the lateral side. So it's going to tip you that direction. Then there's a softer foam on top, so that the more you compress that softer foam, the more you're going to run into the firmer foam, essentially.
And that pushes you to the outside a little bit.
Yeah, and that pushes you to the outside a little bit. Most of that, like I've said, is in the heel,
rear foot.
But the rear foot. But there's some other things like they say there's these rods in it that are actually pretty flexible. It creates some stability structure in the forefoot, but I haven't really felt that. So
cool. Well, knowing that the Nova Blast wasn't quite enough structure for this person, the Nova Blast 4, they said, which I think has the newer geometry to it. It's not like the early ones that were really unstable.
Yep.
These ones have a little bit more true neutral geometry to it. So knowing that didn't work, what's something maybe a little bit more fun that could potentially be worth trying?
Yeah, I'm going to poo on this that I wish I could say the Saucony Tempest 2. Version 1 you can find on Amazon, but version 2, if you have a narrow foot, it might work, but man, that shoe is kind of firm. It's definitely a stability shoe. So what I'm hearing from this is you need at least some mild stability. Some of the more neutral things may not work. Everybody's a little different. So if you're okay with a little snappier but firmer, the Saucony Tempest is going to be a teeny bit lighter. This just hasn't been an exciting ride for me. So that's where I'm going to actually head toward things that are stable neutral. Now, I disagree with Nathan a little bit on this earlier, but I would agree that now, after I've run it more, Mega Blast is a little bit more neutral. I think if you're looking, ASICS is going to do really, really well with stable neutral stuff. The Super Blast could definitely be an option. Just because it is firmer, it has a little bit more structure to it. The toe box does narrow though. The other option I might suggest is going to be New Balance SC Trainer version 3. I would get a half size up just because the sizing's a little bit off, but it's also another shoe that, like, just based on the geometry, the kind of wider setup, sidewalls, all the kind of stuff, those two shoes, and they're a little bit firmer, but snappier, maybe options if you want a little bit more Porsche-like, but things that are a little more safe for what you're looking for. So you're going to need to look for stable neutral, because unfortunately, getting much lighter than the Supernova Solution, there's nothing out there in terms of the stability market. We're hearing rumors about a shoe, but it's not been confirmed from the company yet, and I'll talk about it in a little bit.
Great. Yeah. Still teasing that one out there. Love it. David, do you have any other ones that you would think of?
Yeah, the other one that I would think of, and I agree with Matt on all of that. I think the one that first popped in my head was the Super Blast 2. Just a little bit more stable all around. Flat foam turbo in general is just a little bit firmer. So I feel like that would be a solid option. But the other one I was thinking, which might not be as popular on this end, but is the Hoka Mach X3.
I was just going to bring that one up.
Wider.
You're 100% right. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. A little bit wider frame, not quite as wide as Super Blast or the SC Trainer. It's going to lean a little bit closer to neutral, but it's still got pretty much all the things you'd be looking for. And it's a pretty aggressive rocker, good traction underfoot, lockdown solid. It's one of those shoes where it just really kind of just forces you into rhythm. And out of the three, I feel like that one feels the most Porsche-like to me. Mm-hmm. I feel like the Super Blast 2 can get going a little bit, but it feels more like I want to just go long and I don't need to push as much. The SC Trainer is in the middle. I feel like it's faster than the Super Blast, but it still lacks some of that tempo speed for me. Ironically, the Mach X3, I think, is the heaviest of the bunch, but it feels the fastest. Like, it feels like I could just go rip a tempo run with it immediately if I wanted to.
I've actually done that quite a bit. I haven't gotten as many miles in version 3, only because my Achilles and the lower drop hasn't really agreed with me. And also the heel counter is pretty firm. So I've had to avoid that. But you are 100% right. I think that would be another great option. And there's the internal geometry is also, like, not internal geometry, but like the way stuff is set up, where it's kind of like there's the lateral cutout, which is going to take you a little bit more lateral. There's really decent sidewalls on this shoe. The midfoot's wider, midfoot's filled in. David, I think you're 100% right. I think that would be the most Porsche-like thing worth considering. And probably based on some of the components, not that far off from the Solution, to be honest, even though it's not a stability shoe.
It's funny. I was totally blanking on the name Mach X, and I had just Googled it on my browser right here. I was like, Hoka Tempo Trainer with plate. What is that called? And then it popped up, and then you said the shoe, and I was like, there we go. It's out there. What do you guys think? I didn't run in the Solution, and Matt, you may have been the only one, but in terms of leveling up, in terms of kind of that fun factor, where does the Cloud Monster Hyper relate from a fun standpoint? Because that shoe has a lot of stability, I think, inherently because of that cradle, particularly at the heel. Do you think that one has more fun? Because I'd say that one's more cruiser, kind of like the Super Blast, less than like poppy fun.
And the Super Blast feels faster than the Cloud Monster Hyper.
Yes, that's true too.
I almost have 100 miles on this, but David, I think you have actually more experience than I do in this shoe. Do you want to comment on that?
Too much. Yeah. Why am I bringing this shoe up? I don't think it's worth the cost of it, but I keep bringing it up. Because I like the shoe.
I don't know.
It's a decent shoe once it breaks in. It's just pretty firm. And what I was disappointed in is just, it doesn't have, for all the hype around it being all this stuff, it just does not have any speed versatility. And David, you could disagree with me on that, but
I don't think they marketed it to have speed.
Yeah, but even though it's not the max stack height. And we can argue on this. It's stable. It's great. It's a little bit too firm and stiff, but I want something that I can tempo and pick up the pace a little bit. Like Super Blast, I've done track workouts in. It's not the best for it. It can handle it. I've done tempo runs. I've done workouts. This, I just wanted to cruise. I didn't really want to do anything that fast, but maybe that's me and my mechanics. What do you think?
I mean, I agree with you, but I don't think the goal of the shoe was to go fast. Like, when I think of the model, like, I think of it almost like Vomero and Vomero Plus, like where it's the Cloud Monster, and the Cloud Monster Hyper is kind of like the more plushy version of it.
Hyper though HF. For me, I don't know. Hyper has a built-in marketing of fast. Hyper is always hyper speed, but
the foam is literally called hyper foam, like HF.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just telling you that there's Helion HF in the shoe. It's not necessarily saying it's a fast shoe, and it's not a Cloud Boom, right?
Yeah.
So,
that's where the Cloud Boom
it'd be
Max
a different conversation. Yeah. Cloud Boom Max is another story, but for Cloud Monster Hyper, I don't know. I don't think they mismarketed it. Like, I think it's a great shoe. It was one of my favorite daily trainers of last year. It almost won Daily Trainer of the Year for me last year. It came very close. But it's not a shoe I want to go fast in. It's not one of the ones that come to mind when I think of a Porsche.
Right. That makes sense. All right. So let's go to our next question. And Matt, this one is pretty much directed to you because we've gotten a lot of questions about this. And it's this question: Matt, what are your current favorite shoes for Haglunds? Which might be more apt than ever right now because you've been working through kind of irritation to your Achilles. Yeah. Can you just talk about first briefly, what is a Haglund deformity? When does it matter and when does it not matter? And then talk about what shoes are your favorites.
All right. First of all, by the way, for the 1,000 emails getting, hey, have you updated the best shoes for Haglunds? We're working on it. Please remember that we all I have like multiple jobs and we do this on the side. So I'm getting to that. I promise. I will do that as the next Monday shakeout and get that updated. But a Haglund deformity, there's a couple different things that can happen actually for different individuals. So a Haglund deformity refers to the back of the heel, the calcaneus bone. So if you go and grab the back of your foot, the rearmost bone is going to be called your calcaneus bone. Where the Achilles inserts right there, in some people, it can pull enough and get irritated. There can actually be some bony growth there. Sometimes it's just like a little bit of swelling, but there can actually be a bony growth there because there's something called Wolff's Law of bone remodeling that states that for all the forces placed upon a bone, if given time, the bone will actually react and build and remodel in response to them. So some people that have a little bit too much pressure there, you'll actually get some bony outgrowth of the calcaneus in response, and that's called a Haglund deformity. The less scientific term is also called a pump bump, just because there's a lot of individuals that wear heels and things like that can get an irritation in that area and it pulls excessively there. Most of the time they're benign and they don't cause much issue, but they can get irritated and they can be combined with things like insertional Achilles tendinopathy, and it can be really that area can be sensitive. And the back of a lot of shoes have this very stiff thing called a heel counter. And the counter is meant to create some structure for the heel, but for someone with a Haglund deformity that's irritable, it's not great. So I always talk about, hey, as someone with a Haglund deformity on my left and right side, what shoes don't have one? And there are a couple. We haven't had a lot of options this year. It's not been a sexy year for for people with Haglunds, and that's why it hasn't been updated. But I have a couple options for people. There's been actually a good number of racing options. So as usual, Adidas does this well, but the Adidas Takumi Sen 11, the Adios Pro 4, and the Primex Strung 3 all have no heel counters in them. So I had these ready to go. So if you want shorter, faster distance, like half to marathon or super, crazy super trainer, all those are actually going to work well because there's no counter. It's just totally flexible back there, but there's just some structure and it'll do really, really nicely. I haven't I've been considering running in this, but it is really, really low drop. And with a shoe so tall, the midsole so soft, that can create almost a negative drop. But the Takumi Sen actually surprisingly has worked really, really well. It's got a 7mm drop. And the Adios Pro 4 is an awesome shoe. That has, I just need to try 10.5. It's a little short. The other options, and then another shoe that I've struggled with, but still got 100 miles is the Saucony Endorphin Elite 2. There is no heel counter at all. It is unstable. So if you have stability needs, you're going to struggle, but no heel counter at all. Very flexible. It's actually been really, really nice. So that's another racing option. From the training options, there's not that many. The Mizuno Neo Vista 2 does not have a heel counter. The Neo Zen has some structure. It's very similar, but I found that just a teeny bit irritating. It was a little bit stiffer, but Neo Vista is great. On the road, even though there is a heel counter, the Salomon Aeroglide 3 is a little bit more flexible and actually hasn't bothered me that much. This has been one of my top shoes of the year. So again, little structure, but not as bad. And finally, pretty much the sole trail option, The On Cloud Ultra Pro does not have that stiff of a heel counter and is very, very comfortable back there. And it's been a shoe that I've gotten some additional miles on. But
such a good shoe.
Yeah, that's kind of it. There's not a lot of stuff out there. So when people have asked like, hey, what's the update? I'm like, there's not a lot of options, like new stuff. There's been a lot of very, very things going the opposite way, where heel counters have gotten much stiffer, a lot more structure back there, which is great for the right person. Just for those with Haglunds, it can be a little bit of a struggle.
Did you get miles on the Experience Wild?
I have not yet, just because I haven't been able to handle anything 4mm or below right now.
Sure. I'd be curious from a fit standpoint. What it has on the sides is kind of a larger amount of cushioning on the medial and lateral sides of the heel. And then the center is much thinner. So there's almost like a little groove for the Achilles to go into. I don't have Haglund deformity, so I don't know how it would feel for someone who does, but it was a shoe that popped into my head because it's not, they usually don't have the most rigid heel counters anyway, but then again, with how the cushioning works, it almost creates that groove. Have you had success with those kind of grooves in the past that are all padding related, or not so much?
Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Like, so there's times where like the padding will do really, really well. Like a shoe that does that really well is actually the
He froze almost too good there. Did you
I
thought we lost him.
I said it wrong, huh?
Say it again.
Kayano.
Kayano.
I can't do it.
Kayano.
Man, somebody posted on YouTube being like, "Oh, you guys should work on your pronunciation of how like Adidas and ASICS." I'm like, dude, I can't even pronounce Kayano. Like, give me a break.
You know you got it wrong again, right?
I give up. Sorry, ASICS. I can't do it. It's my favorite shoe of the year. I can't pronounce. The Nimbus, has also done that pretty well, where it's padded enough that it didn't bother me despite its stiff counter.
Sure.
Sometimes if it's too padded, that'll backfire, where the padding actually pushes in there. It can be irritating. So it's kind of like it has to be like Goldilocks just right.
Great. Okay, here's our next question. This is from Matthew, not from yourself.
Okay.
From a different Matthew, of course.
Okay. You're not allowed to ask questions.
No.
Matthew asks this. I work at a local running store and sometimes find it difficult to fully explain the differences between a rockered shoe and a more classic option. I typically use visual cues to explain this, but even in that scenario, find that all shoes visually have that same kind of toe curl, in quotations, or toe spring appearance. What's the best way to explain this to the general population when most of what we say sounds like mumbled jargon to their ears to begin with? Thanks. I think this is a helpful question because we do know a lot of the people who listen are people who work at running stores. But if you are here and you're like, I don't work at a running store, but I also don't know the difference between a rockered shoe and this, hopefully this conversation is helpful. So David, what do you think about kind of this question and how you would approach it?
I think it's a good question. I think when I think about the design of shoes, I think of almost like three major categories, and like, I won't go into those specific categories just yet. I think more generalization here. When I think of a rockered shoe, I think of a shoe that's very rounded. So and the experience in it, you're going to feel kind of a rolling effect in the heel and in the forefoot. With that said, a more traditional design, they still bevel the heel, they still round the forefoot. So I can see where the confusion can happen. But normally with the more traditional quote unquote design, it's going to feel a little bit more like you're wearing a structured heel, like heel and like heels. Like you're going to be a higher heel to toe drop ratio usually. You're going to feel a little bit pitched forward. You're not going to feel as rounded forward. It's going to feel like you just got a little bit more going on there. And then usually the forefoot's a little bit more flexible. You might feel a little bit more bend up front versus like the rockered shoes a lot of times are a little bit stiffer, more rounded. The other one that I would bring up is more like the flat shoes, like very minimal, very flexible types of things. But those are kind of the three archetypes that I kind of think of if I'm describing different kinds of shoes. Did something just fly off that shoe?
I don't know. That's a great question.
I could have sworn I just saw something fly off. Maybe it was just the lace bouncing.
I think it was just the laces bouncing.
I don't know why that threw me off so bad. But that's kind of what I think of. You know, I think of like, and you can even think of it from an experience standpoint and ask the potential buyer like what they feel. But usually it's going to be the rockered shoes are going to be the more rounded shoes. The sensation is going to be very rounded and rolling like, and then the traditional shoe won't feel quite as much like that. It'll feel like your heel's a little bit higher up. Forefoot's usually a little bit more flexible. Not going to feel like you're rolling. And then the flat shoes are going to be more flexible, more minimalist.
Yeah.
Not to be confused with racing flats.
Right.
Very different thing.
I feel like
very different thing.
We need to stop calling them racing flats because none of them are really flat anymore.
Right.
To be fair.
But I feel like contextually, like flats has always been the name for racing shoes.
Yeah, but they're not flat.
Even
anymore.
Out of our country.
Cultural
like
language.
Flats.
That's fair.
Yeah, flats and trainers.
So for me, I think one of the things I think about whenever it comes to any sort of education that you're trying to provide, or even just discussion on a topic that people are asking you about, I think that the why behind their question changes how I would approach it. So if they're just curious, hey, I heard that there's rockered shoes and there's non-rockered shoes. Can you help me understand like the difference? That's a whole other conversation between you bringing out two shoes and be like, this one's got more rocker, this one's kind of flat. And they're like, wait, what's the difference? Because then they didn't bring up the topic. You brought the words and then they're just asking for clarification. So in scenario one, where they bring up the question, they're seeking some kind of like deeper knowledge on the topic. I would probably go into what you know a little bit about that and using, two different shoes and going away from just shape and making sure that you include the rocker. And maybe a way to talk about it with them is the shoes and how they work are going to change where your body needs to work the hardest. When you have a shoe that has this curve and it's stiff, your big toe doesn't have to extend, so it doesn't work as much on your foot and your ankle. Instead, it kind of moves work up towards the knee and the hip. Whereas this shoe, then you would bend it. You'd say it has more flexibility, so your big toe is going to extend, your foot's going to do a little bit more work in this shoe. So that's one way you could potentially explain it, is by showing not just the shape, but also it really does matter about how rigid that is, and just showing that visually, and then just saying with the curve, the load is shifted somewhere else, and with not, then it could stay there. But again, that's only for them just trying to learn about what a rocker is. If you bring up the terms and then they're like, well, what is that? You'd say, why don't you run in them both and see what you think? One just has a little bit of a curve that changes the way that the shoe feels under your foot. And that's honestly all I would tell them at first. If they ask follow-up questions, you could start to talk about some of the things that I just mentioned, but really just have them experience the difference between the two shoes, if that's the why behind the conversation. I think how you approach it depends on the why or what they're really looking for. Matt, do you have any thoughts?
Not really. I think that explains it pretty well. Try not to make it too complicated. And I think that getting it on their foot so they have something to feel is going to be really, really important. And this is something that goes through my head. It's slightly off topic, that remember that a lot of times biomechanics of what you watch don't tell you the full story. It's what the person feels that's going to give them the most information. So such an abstract idea to someone, if they don't have any reference point, just get it on their foot. Give them a good example going, hey, do you feel this? And that's going to probably make a better click than trying to describe it.
Yeah. I think it's also important when you talk about this is to not paint one as good and one as bad. We don't have enough evidence to say that one causes injury, one doesn't. We don't have any evidence to say that one prevents injury and one doesn't. Yep. It's just different. So if they're not if you're working in a run store and you don't have a medical background, you're not trained to speak to like injuries as much as a healthcare provider would be. So I would just be cautious in going there and like, oh, this is going to be really good for this sort of injury. That I'd be really cautious there and just stick to experience. And if they're like, oh, well, I have this history of this thing, should I talk to somebody about that? That's where hopefully you've worked through in your mind, like, what's my scope of practice within my job as a worker in the store, and where can I go with this conversation to help them get what they want from a shoe? All right, here we go. We're going to our next question. This is from Fidel. Fidel asked this: would you be able to recommend a running shoe similar to the Brooks Racer ST5, but with more energy return and or bounce? I have
shout out ST5.
I know, kind of awesome.
I found one on eBay the other day, but I didn't buy it.
Did you really?
Yeah, I did.
Of course, you've been eBay scout because we haven't had as many shoes coming in here on eBay more.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Is that how it goes?
Yeah.
It's like more shoes in, less eBay, less shoes in, more eBay.
Yeah. The problem is
still happens though. It's just like when there's an influx, he starts looking for those prototypes that are coming. Like
the problem is that prototypes never show up anymore. They're all gone. Yeah, so I still look, but I don't buy anything. It's like you go into the nice store and you're like, I want to look at this, but I'm not buying anything. It's cool. Like the hunt is what's fun. I'm not gonna buy
it. I love it.
Unless it's a deal.
Yeah.
Let's keep going. Let's keep going here. So used to use the Brooks Racer ST5, but looking for something with more energy return. They have posterior tibial tendonitis, so they'd like medial posting of the Brooks from the past. They said that you did a YouTube review of the Brooks Hyperion GTS, RIP, which I believe comes close, but wanted to verify that with you here first. So we got a couple things we got to cover. Let's start with what is posterior tibial tendonitis.
Yep. So that's
posterior tibialis tendinopathy.
I'll take this. It's the posterior tibialis is a muscle that sits underneath the calf, very, very close to the gastrocnemius and soleus musculature. And while it is a plantar flexor, meaning it helps your foot point and push off, it also has functions really for a lot of the medial support of your foot. And so those that have a lot of motion here and maybe aren't as strong, or we don't have as good a control over this, that may place the tendon of that muscle at risk for irritation just because it gets moved quite a bit. And adding that by itself isn't it, but you add some overtraining and training stuff in there that can be irritable. So we know that anybody with a history of pronation related injuries, which posterior tibial tendonitis would definitely fit in that category, tend to do better with some kind of medial support or medial posting. A post is a firmer bit of material on the inner side of the foot or outer. It's on any part that's used to try to redirect motion or help slow down motion. There aren't as many posts anymore. I'm going to go on a rant here that I did actually do a Brooks Hyperion GTS 2 versus Brooks Hyperion GTS. And I think the video sucked so bad that we decided not to put it up because it wasn't great. But there is a Hyperion GTS 2. So you could definitely find that. It's a little bit lighter. It doesn't have the same heel drop as the Brooks Racer ST5. That shoe had like a 12+ millimeter heel drop.
A lot of those old flats.
Yeah, it was a solid shoe, but it's definitely one of your classic medially posted racing shoes that don't exist anymore. So the Hyperion GTS 2 is probably the closest thing that exists, but that has also been discontinued. So you'll probably find those on sale, but there will not be a version 3 from what we have heard. Now, if you want more bounce, this is what I've been holding off on, and we have not talked to Saucony about this. They have not talked to us at all. This is me just snooping and finding things, and there's stuff on Instagram and Reddit about this. But supposedly, the Saucony Tempest 3 is a redesigned shoe that has Power Run HG in it, and so the Tempest is definitely a stable neutral / stability shoe. And I don't know when that's going to come out or if it's actually going to come out in the US. There's some rumors that it's actually going to be a China-only shoe. I have no confirmation on that. Saucony team, if you're listening, I want a pair. And if you don't send one, I'm going to go buy one in China. So Hyperion GTS 2 is probably going to be the best option.
Getting unhinged.
Yeah, I should have warned that. But I might have a trip to China coming up pretty soon for a company that I'll have to talk about. So we'll see if that works out. But Hyperion GTS 2 is probably going to be the closest thing. Outside of that category doesn't exist anymore. There are no stable racing shoes left. The closest you're going to find, which you just talked about, is some of the stable, neutral, probably super trainers that actually sit very similar in terms of weight to the Brooks Racer ST5. So Super Blast 2, David, the Mach X3 might be another potential option. You're going to have to look stable neutral because the category you're looking for doesn't really exist at the moment. David, you look confused.
Yeah, I've got a couple things.
All right, go for it. Yeah.
Yeah, the category is slim pickings for sure. I don't think there's a whole lot of things. Like I think of like the DS Racer, like
dead.
RIP. But you can look into some of the lightweight trainers, and there actually is a super shoe that I'm thinking of that runs pretty stable that no one ever talks about and is excellent, and that's the Anta C202. And whether it's the 5 GT, they have the 6 now, but it runs stable. It does.
That is not a stable neutral shoe at all.
It's like 35 millimeters. good traction underfoot, good hold on the foot. Like it runs pretty stable.
That's not remotely
it
close.
It feels like the lightweight trainer racers that used to exist.
Yes, but that's not remotely close to the ST5 of how stable and structured that was.
Is anything remotely close to the ST5, Matt?
No, because the category is dead. That's why.
So let me cook. So
that shoe's not stable. That shoe is so narrow. Just because it was stiff enough for you, it's not okay. Go cook. Fine.
The other one I think of is the Newton Motion, and lower drop. Now depends on how you tolerate that type of geometry, because that could make the tib post tendonitis worse.
Yeah, totally.
If it lines up well with you, it is posted, it is light, it is responsive. You could easily race in that shoe.
That's very true.
I need a good Newton shoe in my life, by the way. It's been too long since I haven't had a Newton shoe.
No, it's been a while.
But then the Motion, it could do it. It could do it.
That is true. So I was wrong. Technically, there are still some shoes, but those
and it's posted.
It is posted. However,
provides great forefoot stability.
The problem is that for the post tib is also plantar flexor, so going into very maximal dorsiflexion will stress that, and so that may not be the best option. For someone that's done well in the ST5, I think for others that maybe it's not post-tib related or their post-tib's calmer, they can handle lower drop. Maybe that's a good option, but I think so. Fine. The category isn't completely dead, but it's just you're right. It's
or depending on how you strike too. I think sometimes like I've found with some of the Newton shoes, especially like the drop doesn't tell the entire story because of their lug situation, and sometimes like the way you land is just like it lines up with the shoe. Doesn't matter if it's a 2 millimeter drop. Where like it doesn't feel that aggressive, where like sometimes it could be a 4 millimeter drop and it feels very aggressive. So I think it just depends on the model and whether or not it lines up with your mechanics. I think
the Kismet fair. You might be able to get away with. The Motion's much more traditional, and that shoe's pretty. You're gonna be feeling like negative.
For the
drop
Kismet,
with lugs.
Those are both their two stability options. You know, so
yeah,
the Motion's supposed to be the quicker of the two.
Yeah, that's fair. All right.
Very fun. Well, we got one more question for the night. And this question is from Elena. And they say this. Hi, I love your advice and long-term pod listener. Hope I can get some shoe recs. I have poor ankle stability. My ankles tend to roll. I've had 2 fifth metatarsal breaks due to ankle rolls. I've heard stability shoes themselves aren't good for correcting this. I'm going to see a PT, but what shoes would you recommend? I prefer a wider toe box. I've been walking and running in the Glycerin GTS 21 and Saucony Guide 17. Also like the New Balance More version 4. I'll start a little bit on this one just to kind of provide a little more context. So we're going to make a few assumptions based on what we read here. This person's talking about rolling the ankle. We're going to assume that means that the ankle rolls inward, kind of like a classic ankle sprain where your foot kind of rolls in, your ankle moves to the outside. And that would be a pretty common way for, unfortunately, as they've experienced, where the tendons that then insert into the 5th metatarsal, which is the long bone on the outside of your foot, that can get pulled on and potentially lead to some sort of fracture, or just the stress and like the torque happening around that bone can lead to a fracture. So sorry that's happened twice, but that's the type of roll that we're going to assume. And so the next thing that they allude to is this idea that stability shoes might not be good for this. And so there's some truth there, where if you have a shoe that is biased to move your foot from perfectly flat to kind of pitching you outward to some extent, or trying to guide you to the outside, that's going to predispose you to the motion that they've experienced multiple times of rolling their ankle inward. And so if you have a shoe that doesn't compensate for pushing you that way with like a wider platform, that would be something that could potentially be problematic and kind of push you towards the direction that you're already unstable. So I think that there's some truth in what they're saying there, but let's push this forward now in terms of recommendations and other considerations. Is there anything you'd add about what the condition that they're referencing is, or go into shoe recommendations or comments on the ones that they're currently running in?
What are they currently running in again?
Glycerin GTS 21, Saucony Guide 17, New Balance More version 4.
And they're looking for a shoe recommendation to not roll their ankle?
Right.
That More is pretty hard to roll your ankle in.
I like the More option so far, too. That wide platform in the heel is pretty solid.
for stability, but you don't want to roll into inversion. I think of, kind of wider base, kind of like the more, but I think of looking for things kind of more towards the guidance type of like movement pathway. And one shoe that comes up, which I don't think is one that most people would think of, but the more it made me thinking about it, is the Hoka Stinson.
Oh,
and very, very stable underfoot. It's heavy. Technically a road / trail shoe. The ATR at the end means all terrain. So it's Stinson ATR is the full name. We're on number 6 now, right? Does it say on there? I don't remember.
I think it's 7, but 7 has been out for a long time.
Then it's 7. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think
either way, the
out.
Stinson ATR, that shoe is very, very stable, very hard to roll your ankle going into an inversion sprain. And they have it set up with what they call an H frame, where like you basically have these like kind of cutouts on the inside. You can't see them, but like embedded in the foam, like in the heel and in the forefoot, and it kind of makes like an H. Can I do that on the camera here? Almost like that. If my darn forearm wasn't blocking it, there you go.
Yeah,
like that. And yeah, so they do it to kind of give you a little bit of guidance, but still have some structure around the foot. That's one shoe that comes to mind. If the more isn't enough, if you need more from the more,
not less.
Yeah, no, we need more, Klein. But
the first thing that came into my head for this was basically finding a shoe that has a really nice wide heel. You would want that wide platform in the heel if it's wide enough and has some, we call it flare. So like where your foot sits, and then if the midsole, the foam part kind of jets out from the shoe or is wider than the shoe itself, that's flare. And having some flare on the outside, so like lateral flare, would probably be something that would be worth seeing. And the company that I think uses that wider platform is the one that David mentioned already. And I think a lot of Hokas would be appropriate for this. Even something simple like the Clifton would probably be fine, just because it is that wider platform and that's kind of how they operate. And knowing that you like a wide toe box, so does my wife, and she gets the Clifton wide version. And the wides for Hoka are very roomy. And so that I think is a really valid option for kind of what you're looking for. I know, Matt, you held up a shoe with a cutout in the middle of it.
Yeah, I just, the idea of, like David said, the guidance or the stable neutral concept, like stuff that I think guidance is probably the better term of stuff that keeps you in the middle. And then I would totally agree that lateral flare is probably the way to go. If you're just looking for a simple trainer, if you like the fit of Brooks, the Brooks Ghost version 3 is actually pretty good at this. Just got a wider class.
Ghost Max.
I'm sorry. The Ghost Max 3.
That's a good option.
It's a really good option because sidewalls, and again, not biased in one direction. But I think the more is also a great option too that you were talking about.
What about Glycerin Max
versus the GTS? Oh no, Glycerin Max. Got it. Sorry. Oh, I don't even like looking at it.
I know you did not get along with that shoe.
My foot hurts just looking at it. Like I literally like get cringing. Like
the reason I'm going to hesitate to suggest this, yes, it's got all the things that we would talk about. It's got nice sidewall. It's got a wider platform. I just think there's a certain point when sometimes if you get too tall, like the More is pretty tall, but this is taller than the More, if I remember correctly. That's where I'm going to hesitate just a little bit, or it'd be nicer to be a little bit more normal, moderate stack height. But
I agree with that concept, and I'm going to also just throw out another shoe that is not in the normal stack height, and that's the Super Blast. The Super Blast platform is super wide too. I don't think I could roll my ankle in that shoe if I tried to. So
if you did, you would fracture your tib fib for sure.
Yeah, it'd be bad, but it's so wide that I just don't think it would happen. Any others that we want to add to that?
I think it
doesn't have a wide toe box though.
That's true. That would be the downfall of that. That's a good point.
The Ultra via Olympus isn't horrible.
I just want to train in that shoe all the time.
Yeah, the zero drop is hard. What's their 4mm drop maximal one that just came out? It's like the forward. Is the Via?
I think you're
Via
right.
2? The Via 2 just came out. I remembered I actually surprisingly liked the original one. It wasn't the sexiest shoe, but the Ford Via 2 we haven't gotten to try, but I saw that. That could be a wide toe box option. Oh, speaking of wide toe box, any Topos that you would think about? Topo usually does this pretty well.
The Atmos is pretty wide all around.
Yeah, that might be a great option. It's just wide toe box.
And it's very roomy up front.
Yeah. I never tried it, but Andrea always talked about it being stable.
It's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say it's not a whole lot of fun, but it's nice. It's structured and it's, it's a good shoe.
Yeah, I think that's a good option. I don't think the current like Magnafly or the current Phantom weren't, because they get a little bit more narrow in the heel, so I don't think they give that structure as much as the Atmos does. So fantastic.
Yeah.
Anything else that y'all want to hit before we sign off tonight?
There is one more question I do want to hit, because I think that
Which one?
So it's from B that asks the age-old questions at DOR.
Gotcha. I'll read this one out.
Okay.
B asked the age-old question at DOR. Here it is. Writing in from Oz. Love the pod, love the combo of shoe talk and PT pointers. Wondering if you guys could help me with some options to replace my old GlideRide 3s from ASICS. Yeah, don't we all? I use them for daily miles and long runs, anything 1 to 3 hours at easy paces. Love the rocker and the stability. Just need a touch of medial support, so nothing super soft with severe cutouts. Looking for something similar, but hopefully a little lighter and with a lighter upper. But seems hard to find comparisons because the shoe's a bit older and hard to find the weight stability rocker combo. Closest I see, maybe the Super Blast 2. Anything that I'm missing?
I've got two that come to mind, and this could be expanded as I think more, but now I want to be careful how I say this, because it's more about the toe spring and the way that it moves, not as stiff as the GlideRide. However, the forefoot experience is still pretty similar, and I think of the Tier Maverick version 1. You have a lot more toe spring, you get that rolling feeling. Like when I wore the shoe for the first time, the first thing I thought was, this is what the GlideRide Max should have been. It was light, you have that forefoot rocker. The foam is pretty structured, it's 44 millimeters of stack, there's a lot of foam, but the foam itself, it's not like the super compliant, mushy foam, and it's not overly bouncy either. It's just very kind of light and rhythmic. And then the other shoe that I think of, and this one's going to be a polarizing one, I think the Maverick version 1 is probably the safer of the two options, especially at the price at $150, but is the ASICS Sonic Blast. And that one has a very stiff upfront forefoot. It's like the GlideRide. Like it's the rolling sensation off the forefoot. Like the heel isn't as smooth. It's not as smooth. What? It's like a fast GlideRide.
No.
You said it would be polarizing. It's not for good, long 1 to 3 hour runs at easier paces. That is not what
Andrea said it's like the perfect easy day shoe.
Yeah, well, she runs on her forefoot. So if this
she
guy
lands farther forward.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. Like if you want the forefoot experience, like it's not that different.
No, it's not the GlideRide.
No, it's not that rockered. It's stiff.
It is rocker in the forefoot, not in the heel. Not in the heel. Heel needs to be better.
It doesn't operate that way.
No,
it doesn't operate that way.
It does not. I 100%.
I think you guys just land so hard on your heels that you just get the shank effect, and then anything that happens beyond that is just.
If I can get up on my forefoot if I need to, and I didn't enjoy it anymore. To be honest,
it's not good.
No,
me and Andrea like it.
You're the solo, the only two.
There's other people out there that like it.
I'm sure there is.
No, that's true.
But
it's not like it's not like a GlideRide. It's not like a GlideRide.
I would 100% agree with them. The reason I brought this up is I thought David would do a great job explaining this. The Tier Maverick version 1, I think, is the closest thing I've come to a GlideRide in a while, but much lighter. And again, not a mushy foam, but there's some bounce to it. But it's not a shoe meant for super speed. But man, just getting into a rhythm and just going out there for a long run, that shoe is awesome. I wish it was a teeny bit more medially stable, because there's a good amount of lateral flare. But once you get through that and you rip it off, like I have, it evens out really nicely. So it's been a solid shoe that I think is the closest that I can think of to the GlideRide 3. But that's
the one shoe I'm going to add to the list is actually the Skechers Aero Burst. It doesn't check the box for lighter. It's definitely a heavier shoe, but it has similar type of cushioning that the GlideRide had, has a wider platform, and has a mild rocker. So I think from a easy run standpoint, it fits there. I agree with the Tier Maverick more, but that would be another one that I would add on to the list. And I also agree with your caveat, David, that the Tier Maverick has a little bit more flexibility in the forefoot than the GlideRide 3. But I would throw the Aero Burst in there as like, if it's in a shop and you try it on, you might you might find you like it a little bit.
Now,
depending on how you land, that mid-foot forward on the Sonic Blast is pretty similar.
No, it's not.
It's not.
It's not.
It's more lively. It's faster for sure.
Another important question that we got is, what is your, if you had to pick one shoe, what would your replacement be for the Shift series? Do you think the Endorphin Trainer actually replaces it from Saucony, or is the Shift irreplaceable? And by the way, it's still on Amazon and still on eBay. You can find it both there.
I seriously think the closest thing to the Shift is either, if they can modify it a little bit, the Brooks Ghost Max or the Glycerin Max. I think that there is the shaping underfoot. It's an EVA, wide base of support, and rocker without a plate. I think that's what they are. That's what it's closest to. I think that we have Matt's fainting. I think that
losing it.
This could be a little bit controversial as well, but I think that when the Shift came out, it was pretty unique. And so we have this rose-colored glasses that we see the Shift through. And in reality, most shoes are a Shift. There's a lot of shoes that are a Shift right now.
Version 3 was not
I wasn't
as good as the
a Shift zealot like y'all. I was this is just a firm rocker trainer.
That's fair.
Yeah.
And it was nice. But I wasn't there's never, ever going to be another Endorphin Shift again. I didn't have those feelings.
Yeah.
I feel similarly, I feel like the Nimbus could be a Shift.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but the
ASICS
Shift
Nimbus
was lighter. It was in the 9 ounce range, right? Or did it exceed that? And I've just forgotten.
I mean, the Tier Maverick's a rockered lightweight trainer.
Maybe.
It's not a Shift though. It's not a
stiff and stable.
Not as firm either. You don't have that many firm shoes.
That's what I'm saying.
I didn't love the Shift for that reason. It was too firm almost for me, which is weird for me to say. I do like firmer shoes, but maybe just not in sharply rockered shoes. Maybe I don't know.
Sure. Yeah.
Maybe I like them to have a little bit more give if they're going to be that rockered.
I hate that I'm bringing this shoe up again, but I do think the Cloud Monster Hyper is also kind of close on that too.
Actually, no, it's a softer version of it. You're right. When I think about it,
slightly softer version. Yeah. And I hate that I keep bringing that shoe up.
You're right. No, you're right. That's what I never thought about that. You're right. Yeah. The Endorphin Shift 3 softer with a nicer foam is the Cloud Monster Hyper.
Such blasphemy.
And about $100 more.
Such blasphemy, but anyway.
It's a nice shoe.
Matt, do you have an answer?
You're right, though. It feels like the Shift, underfoot. It actually does feel similar.
Well, I never hear from you all.
Ever thought about that?
Even though I just said that, I think I look back at the Shift with rose-colored glasses. I'm going to continue to do that because I loved when I still remember my first 14-mile run in that shoe. I just felt great the whole time. So I'm going to continue to look at it beautifully and maybe unjustly give it this pedestal that it maybe doesn't deserve. But if people have ideas of what has been your replacement for the Shift, we'd love to hear it. If you have other questions for us here at Doctors of Running, please reach out to us at doctorsofrunning@gmail.com. We'd love to pull together these questions for further and future mailbag episodes. And if you want to reach out to us again, you can find us at doctorsofrunning.com and then email us at doctorsofrunning@gmail.com. How many times should I say doctorsofrunning@gmail.com or
doctorsofrunning.com? Doctorsofrunning.com.
A few more
You can
times.
find us at doctorsofrunning.com.
Check us out at doctorsofrunning.com.